TJ?
Good.
All right. Well, I have an all-star lineup tonight. I have Mr. George Eichhorn, who hasn't been.
Where? Oh,
you missed last week. You were at the hockey game, correct?
I was at a hockey game, and the Red Wings, did a nice job winning that. But I missed all of you too. Glad to be back on.
Good to have you. Good to have you. And then, Mr. Smoking Jeremy B.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. It's good to see you.
Good to be seen. And then, Mr. Ralph.
Yes, how are you? How's everybody? George, Candy, and
Good.
Jeremy, and all those out there watching. How are you?
Doing good. In fact, those watching, we already have Mr. Will. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Will.
Hi, Will.
So, guys, football. We're down to only 2 weekends left of the NFL season. This weekend, Pro Bowl. Are you watching it or not? And if you're not, what could they do differently to make it more fun or more watchable or just better overall? We are going to start with Mr. Smoking Jeremy B.
Well, I remember growing up, the Pro Bowl used to be 2-3 weeks after the Super Bowl. So everybody could heal up, have a little time to reflect on what was the Super Bowl. The Daytona 500 would go do its thing as the granddaddy of every major sporting event. And then you'd have the Pro Bowl. It would be in Hawaii. You'd have a better skills competition than this. What's the best catch? The tug of war has always been there because that's O-line versus D-line. That's the way it's always been, and it's a fun thing to watch. But the strongest arm competition, the accuracy competition, and all that, and it was in Hawaii. It was an honor to get that trip to go to Hawaii and the extra bonus checks. And they actually played football then too. I remember they used to hit people.
Yes.
It was amazing. And they actually did call penalties. Not like the penalties are right now. They say, yes, even though this is the Pro Bowl, we do call penalty, false start. We didn't need the explanation back then because it was football. And if you want to take it back even further, in my opinion, if you really want to make it right, you go back to the way it was in the 50s and 60s. The Super Bowl champion takes on a team of 53 players made up of all the best players from every team outside of the Super Bowl champion. Make it a bonus, make the winner get X amount of dollars, make the loser get half as much. Make it fun again. Make the players want to go. Make it an honor, not this fan popularity vote they have now. You almost should take the vote away from the fans because all they do is look for the big names they know and they don't look for the stats like the way do to vote people into the Pro Bowl.
Wow. Okay, Mr. George Eichhorn, your opinion. Are you watching the Pro Bowl, and what do you think they could do to improve it?
Well, I got to watch some of it. Are you kidding me? There's 7 Detroit Lions. I think Ragnow's not going to play, right, Jeremy? So we would be down to 6 Lions that are supposed to participate in the game.
And I don't think Jonas will play either.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, the Lions are blessed, obviously. It's a reward for a great season. But I agree with Jeremy. These contests that they're having and things like that just don't do anything for me. I know they're trying to appeal to the younger fans, and they're trying to draw maybe perhaps a different audience. And I, too, used to love it when they went to Honolulu. And I know they had to renovate the stadium, so I'm not quite sure if they're going to go back there. And I know for a while there that the attendance did drop off a little bit, and they started rotating it. And Florida's been having it for quite a number of years now. But that being said, yeah, there's got to be more excitement in it. I go back to the days, and you guys might remember when the Chicago hosted the All-Star game, and it was all the college seniors would play the Super Bowl champion or NFL champion in Soldier Field. Of course, that went away a long, long time ago. But Jeremy, I think you're on a good track there. I think they got to design it in such a way that you could showcase more of the Super Bowl champions, like you said, and then the All-Stars from around the league. The other thing is that this is the only All-Star game, folks, that's not played in the middle of a season. The NHL, the NBA, and Major League Baseball, of course, all have an All-Star break roughly halfway through the season. And I know that they're afraid of injuries. Most of the players are, and it's a long season. There are many reasons why the NFL never wanted to go that way and have a mid-season All-Star game. But I agree, something's got to be done. We've got to make it more exciting, and we've got to come back with hitting and things like that. I mean, a little bit of contact. Come on. Easy for me to say. I'm not out there strapping it up, but I mean, I think that they definitely need to hear improvements. So I'm interested in seeing what everybody on our panel also says.
Mr. Ralph, are you
Well-
watching, and what can they do to improve?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not watching it. I call it the Pro Bowl now. Okay. I used to watch it back in the day because, like Jeremy said, and like George said, it was fun to watch, and it was in Hawaii. Okay. Roger Goodell has turned this into politics. Roger Goodell, the union, and the owners have turned this into a bunch of politics. Well, we can't have hitting because the union is upset because they don't want their players getting hurt. I get it. All right. Roger Goodell has screwed this thing up so bad since he's been commissioner that it's very unacceptable to me, and I don't like it. And I think that it needs to go back to some old style. I will be watching the Senior Bowl and the East-West Shrine game. I will not be watching none of the Pro Bowl activities.
So let's go to the chat room. Jeremy, you want to read some of these?
My thoughts on the Pro Bowl, I haven't watched it in many years. My favorite Pro Bowl moment was 2008 when Sean Taylor hit punter Brian Mormon. That was a huge hit. I will not watch the Pro Bowl anymore. Ever since they stopped tackling, bring back tackling, that's why I stopped watching it. The golf closest pin, stupidest thing that is a skill challenge now. It has nothing to deal with football. And then Joshua Burstein says, "Where is the Mad Mouth? This is his night off. He just got done with the show, I believe."
So Joshua, yes, the Motor City Mad Mouth doesn't come appear on this show unless he's asked or unless he needs to fill in. This is actually my show that he gave me, and I do it with Jeremy. We do it normally Thursday nights, and then we do a version that's just Jeremy and I on Sunday mornings. So we appreciate you missing the Motor City Mad Mouth, but we have our own version. So Pro Bowl. Am I watching? According to my husband, we're not watching the Pro Bowl, and we're not going to be watching the Super Bowl. Pro Bowl is a snooze fest. Let's face it. It's just not it's not the honor that it used to be. Is it really even a football game?
It's flag football.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's flag football this year. And yes, flag football is growing in popularity, but it's not the NFL. It's a whole separate. So do I like it? Do I like skills? I like skills competition, but not what we're doing here. I like the accuracy. I think they should have running backs run and who's the fastest man in a certain category and who has the biggest leap and, things that are football skills. Seeing them excel at those specific skills would be great. But some of these other things, no. I can do without Josh. Yes, we agree. None of us think that the Pro Bowl is anything that it used to be, anything that it's worth watching. Now, George, you bring up an interesting point that all the other sports put it in the middle of the season. The one thing that does is, depending on how many you have participating in it, would also mean the rest of the team would be healing because they'd have at least 2 weeks to heal up, especially in football. Would that give an advantage to a team that isn't doing as well? And it would almost be like a bye week for games. That would be an interesting concept, and obviously there's going to be hits and you can get injuries, and that's the whole reason why they don't put it there. Jeremy,
No, I
you're
get
gonna
it.
say something?
Yeah, I
have
get it.
for that.
I'm sorry.
You
Go
what?
ahead, Jeremy.
You do away with the bye week. You have an off week the week before the All-Pro game, and then you have a week off after the All-Pro game for all 16 teams.
Yeah, season's going to be longer.
Well, no, it'd still be only 18 weeks. Well, yes and no, because if you look at it, you take the week off for the Pro Bowl in between with the playoffs. You'll be doing that week off there. Every team gets a week off for the bye week, but the other teams play. It stretches it to an 18-week season already. We give them the extra week off before they even start the season after the 3 weeks of preseason bull crap they give us where no starters touch the field. I
Yeah,
think
I just,
that would be
yeah.
the way you have to go with it. You do away with the bye weeks. Everybody gets the week off before, everybody gets the week off after. I mean, you're only extending it 1 week that way.
And then have a lottery drawing as to who's going to be the coach. That's what you do.
Yeah.
I
Interesting.
think that it's going to be difficult because your stars are going to have to play in that game. So they're going to sacrifice some of their, what you said, Jeremy, bye week time. They're still preparing, although it's not intense. They'd be preparing for that Pro Bowl game. I mean, they could work it out somehow.
I mean,
They could in the middle of the season.
Before and the week after off, like I said, that's a week off. That's not prepping the teams.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
Is the week of the Pro Bowl.
Right.
So you still get that week off before and the week off after. You could run replays of all the playoff, like wild card and divisional round on the 1 week, and then the next week you run after that you run the reruns of the previous year's championship round and the Super Bowl.
So my question would be, is because they've been playing a lot of international games, would you change that Pro Bowl to an international game and put that over there? Because you have the traveling, let's face it, that's a lot of times why teams have buys are after the traveling of coming back from overseas. So could you possibly make the Pro Bowl an overseas game?
Yeah, I think that would require more time off because because that's what the players are complaining about now, especially the ones that play on a Sunday and then come home and have to play on a Thursday.
Yeah.
They don't do the bye week before or after half the time for those teams. It just doesn't seem right. So I don't think overseas for that would work. Maybe if it was like they decided to do it in Canada to promote football in Canada, or if they decided to go back to Mexico City, as long as they got the drainage right for the big bull fighting arena that they built up to do it the last time.
Okay, interesting conversations. I love it. I love it. That's what this show is all about. Getting fired up about something. So, we introduced a new segment last week, and it was called My Town. And it is where each of us can talk about either a team that we are currently living in or a team from our hometown if some of us have moved and relocated, and I might be one of the only ones for that. But so we are going to start out that segment, and we're going to start out with Mr. Ralph Williams. Ralph, what's happening in your town?
Well, the Steelers signed Arthur Smith and have hired him to be our new offensive coordinator. Those of you who don't know who Arthur Smith is, he was the former head coach with the Atlanta Falcons. He also was the offensive coordinator for 4 years down in Tennessee, and he was around Tennessee before as an assistant coach, quality control coach. I think he was the equipment manager and whatever with Tennessee. Did a lot of stuff in Tennessee. So I think that this is a good hire. Steelers need to run the football. They need to have play action and make it as simple as possible for Kenny Pickett. The only thing I have a problem with this is I hope that he opens up the playbook a little bit more. We do some downfield throwing. and some other stuff, and none of this thinking dink stuff. All right. Also, he's supposedly going to be bringing Mike Munchak with him, former offensive line coach with the Steelers. I hear he's coming back if Arthur Smith is the coach, and I hear Mike Kupka from the Giants is coming with us as a quality control coach or a passing game coordinator. Mike Sullivan might be staying as quarterbacks coach, and Eddie Faulkner might be staying as running backs coach. But we're going to find out what Arthur Smith decides to do, and we'll see where the Steelers go with this as well. As far as the Penguins go, they're off for the All-Star game, and I hope they can retool and get this roller coaster season out of the way. And the Pirates just signed a guy from Texas, and they signed a couple of non-roster invitees for their pitching staff. So that's what's going on in Pittsburgh.
Okay, Mr. George, let's go to you tonight.
Well, there's a lot been going on in my town, as you guys know, and Jeremy's going to talk a little bit about it too. But obviously, everybody's disappointed in the Lions exiting after the NFC Championship game loss. I'm not going to get into that too much. A lot has been said and read and heard about that. The good news is both their offensive and defensive coordinators are coming back to the team, so that's wonderful news. And a story that kind of got drowned out a little bit by the local media is the fact that the Detroit Tigers did something that they normally don't do. They signed a young man to a contract that gave him 6 years. And this young man can play second or third, and he has not played a single game nor made an appearance in the major leagues yet. So I look back in this, and that it's unusual for the Tigers to do that. It's not totally unheard of in Major League Baseball. There have been many examples of locking a young man in from the draft. He's 22 years old. His name is Colt Keith. Kind of a strange name. Colt is his first name, Colt. Last name Keith. He had a superb year last year in the 2023 season in the minor leagues with Double-A Erie and Triple-A Toledo. In fact, he hit more home runs, I believe, than any other Tiger in the minor leagues the 2023 season. It's a bit of a gamble because the Tigers, as you know, do not have a lot of big name stars. Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green are two of the other position players that obviously are very well regarded here in Detroit. But they really broke down a little bit of the ceiling. And, you know, I'm not going to complain about this too much because they're using money that hopefully will be well spent. I mean, if they lost this kid to arbitration or they lost them, they couldn't afford him anymore, that would be a hopeless situation. So what they're trying to do is get ahead of the game, pardon the pun, and sign Keith to the 6-year contract with over $8 million with club options for 20, 30, 31, and 32, I believe. So it's an interesting story in Detroit. I welcome the kid. It looks like they'll be playing him hopefully full time. Or he's going to get down to spring training in Lakeland in another week or two. So that was my top story in the old hometown here, non-related, obviously, to our Detroit Lions.
Interesting stat for you, though. While he was in the Double-A and Triple-A minor leagues for Detroit, he had a 900 OPS batting left and right-handed as a switch hitter.
Wow.
So that is a huge boost. Not just home runs either. I mean, yes, he led the leagues in home runs for the last 2 years in the respective leagues he was in, but he also was leading in doubles, and he also I think he placed fourth in triples last season. So he has some wheels.
Yeah.
He's a five-tool player that's developing his defense, is what I heard. They started bouncing him back and forth between second and third because of injuries to the Mud Hens last year. So I applaud the move. I think it's a great move because if they didn't do that and put him on the MLB roster this year, he'd have hit the MLB Rule 5 draft in June. So
Thank you.
that's the big thing I wanted
Yeah,
to
thank
point
you.
out
Those
there.
are good. Those are good points. Thanks for sharing
Yeah.
those, Jeremy.
So first off, I want to say kudos to replacing the guy who could get pressure but no sacks as our D-line coach since Todd Wash walked out the building after the 2022-2023 season. We hired the guy from the Tennessee Titans, Tyrell Williams, who has ties back to Dan Campbell back when he was the interim head coach at Miami, who stepped in when the defensive coordinator was fired. He had to step up and be the defensive coordinator. What's funny about Tyrell Williams, he's one of the guys that helped Ndamukong Suh clean up his game so he wasn't getting as many penalties. Now he's also the head coach at the Senior Bowl for the American squad, and he's getting working with the guy that I have been scouting for, hopefully our second round pick in the draft, Tavondre Sweat, defensive tackle out of Texas. The kid is 6'4", 362 pounds. He has been pancaking centers to get to the quarterback in practice so far, and he's taken on double and triple teams, freeing up other players at the same time. You put a guy that big next to Aleem McNeil, your left end doesn't have to be fantastic to make Hutch good. The only other thing I'm going to say, while everybody is jumping up and down, we kept our coordinators. I'm going to give you some stats that tells you where they need to improve. On offense, it's the scoring per quarter. 7.1, good enough for second in the league in the first quarter. 8.2 in the second quarter, points per quarter. That's seventh in the league. Fourth quarter, 8 points a quarter is the average. That's third in the league. The third quarter, 4.2. It's 20th. Now let's go to defense. 4.2 points given up in the first quarter. As good as that sounds, that was 17th in the league. Second quarter, 6 points per quarter is what it broke down to when you added it up in the game. That was 9th in the league. So far, that's not bad. That's an average of 12. Fourth quarter, 6.4 points. That's 21st in the league. Third quarter on defense, it ranks dead last in the league at 6.9 points per quarter. Now, if you want to tell me why we lost the NFC Championship and the other 5 games throughout the season, I think the third quarter tells the story. That is where both coordinators need to improve. The adjustments on defense when we had a lead, and what I've seen throughout, we had to go to this base defense back to just the 4-2-5, which you normally is a dime defense. You have the 2 guys for the linebackers back there. It could be an outside linebacker and a middle linebacker or 2 middle linebackers. It's whatever combination you want. And then you've got 5 guys in the secondary with 4 down linemen. When you go that route and you don't change that formation and you don't swap out players to benefit having fresh legs on the field, and you don't add an extra blitzer in that third quarter, that is the downfall. In the third quarter, I don't know why, but Ben Johnson this past season remind me a lot of Jim Caldwell for every game. We'd have a running game going good in the first half. We'd have the passing game and the play action working in the first half. And then all of a sudden, we only run the ball 3 times for the entire quarter in 4 drives. There's something wrong with that. You don't make adjustments and change from what works.
Very good. I agree wholeheartedly.
So do I.
And those statistics, thanks for sharing those, Jeremy, because those are very important. I mean, I all the time the third quarter collapse, and then, like you said, that's got to stop for the Lions. It's got to get better next year. I'm sure they will be focused on that, and hopefully the new additions that they'll pick up through draft and free agency will help as well.
Yeah, you can't lay an egg in a big game. That's where the when you get to the AFC or the NFC Championship game, that's the game that you can't afford to make mistakes and beat yourself, and that's what Detroit did. As much as I want them in this Super Bowl, but that's
Unfortunately, the luckiest break of that NFC Championship game happened when Kendall Vildor was in position to make the interception, and he's a secondary person, not a wide receiver for a reason. It went between his hands, and of all the luckiest bounces in the world, it ends up in Brandon Ayuk's hand as he's jumping over him while he's falling down, and that was a momentum shift right there.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it
Oh
was.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the biggest momentum shift of the entire game. And once that happened, it was a snowball effect. It was as much as I hate to quote a movie that's fictitious, but it was based off of something that really happened. You remember the lockout, and then they did that movie, The Replacements, with
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves, John Madden, and Pat Summerall were the announcers every game. But they used real NFL coaches for the other opponents. They used real NFL players sprinkled, whether through the regular roster that they had on that show or the other opposing teams. And prior to the season, the coach asked the team, "What is the thing you're most afraid of?" And everybody was saying the normal stuff, spiders, snakes, this, that, the other. And Keanu Reeves, who was the quarterback of the team, Shane Falco, says, "Quicksand." He goes, "Oh, yeah, you can't move," and blah, blah. He goes, and Gene Hagen goes, "That's not the type of quicksand he's talking. Tell him what you're talking about." And everybody asks him, "Yeah, Shane, what's up?" And he goes, "Well, quicksand in sports is when you have a mistake happen and you dwell upon it and you try your hardest not to make another one. You make another one, then you make another one. And eventually you're up to your neck in the stress and the pressure of all those mistakes and you can't even move or breathe."
Yeah. True.
That is exactly what happened in the third quarter to Detroit.
Yeah. Yep.
So, Jeremy, let's read what his town is Charlotte, North Carolina.
My town, Charlotte, North Carolina, has hired Dan Morgan, former linebacker, I'll add, as GM for the Carolina Panthers, and used to play for them, and hired Dave Canales, the OC of the Buccaneers, to be the head coach. Great.
And then
I think it's a good hire. And rookie Brandon Miller of the Charlotte Hornets got named to the NBA All-Star Rising Stars game.
And then thank you, Ken. A little late, but here now. Glad you're joining us.
Hi, smoking dad.
Okay, so my town. I'm not going to go with the town I live in because we all know I'm not as big of a fan down here as I am with my beloved Wisconsin teams, and I know that's to the chagrin of some of you, but the Green Bay Packers had what I would say a much improved end of the year where nobody thought they would end up. Kudos to them. 19 of their 22 starters from the game they played with the 49ers are signed for next year. Will be back. One of the big ones that they need to, in my opinion, sign is Aaron Jones. He is our running back. Not only is he our running back, he is the excitement. He's the guy that gets the locker room going and all of the guys together and hyped up. And from what I've been told, he is just a really good guy that helps all of those young rookies. You need to sign him then because let's face it, the Milwaukee Brewers let Josh Hader and traded Josh Hader years ago and let him go. He was that same guy, and their locker room tanked at the end of the season when you needed him most. Now, the Packers also have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. Yes, I know Detroit has more, but they still have 5. Oh, they only have 4? Okay, we have 5 in the first 3 rounds. And because we shipped Aaron Rodgers off to the Jets, we have more cap space available now too. So we have room to, if we want to trade some of these picks or anything like that, we can. It gives flexibility. And I know Ted Thompson was not one about going out there and signing free agents. He really felt you had to draft and build from within. Gutenkirst, he'll do either. And there have been some moves that maybe people have questioned, but they've really turned out. Like, look at this team. Now, The big news of today obviously has to be my Brewers and them trading Corbinburnes. And there's a lot of people out there saying, oh no, we're tanking the season away. We're tanking the season away. The Milwaukee Brewers play in a small market, medium to small. I don't care. I love my Brewers, but it's a smaller market. They don't have the deep pockets that the Yankees do and some of these other owners. They have to make the most out of what they have. Corbinburnes is going to be a free agent next year. So the only time his trade value is high is going into this last year, or maybe if he's having a really good year in the middle of this year. But you can't bank on that, because what if all of a sudden he gets injured or hurt? So right now is the best time that you can trade him. So for all you Brewer fans that are thinking that this is a horrible trade, this gets you something for him now. And we got 3 prospects. 1 is a draft prospect, 2 are young players. I can't fault them because they have to do what they have to do to make the team relevant and relevant now. They also, from what I've been told, renovated and have this brand new big scoreboard out in center field. So I'll be exciting to see the new digs out there. I don't know when we're going to be out there, but I can't wait to see it. So those are the 2 big things. I mean, obviously, Docrivers now is coaching the Milwaukee Bucks, but right now he's 0-2.
Yeah, go.
Surprise!
There's a blast from the past. Doc Rivers. Wow.
Rivers, the guy that goes places to have playoffs die. Name me one team that's made it to the finals he's coached other than the superstar team that was the Celtics.
I don't follow NBA that much, Jeremy, but I haven't heard of any.
There isn't.
He's 6-10, I think, in the playoffs. So he's not had a good record.
Wins was with the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, 6-10. You're talking about the playoff series.
Yes.
Not his 1-loss record, but the series that he coached in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's
in his playoff career as a coach, he's 6-10, and 4 of those wins was when Boston won it all.
Right. 4 rounds of yes, correct. Yep. I don't know.
You don't know what?
I just don't know. I just don't know if he's the answer, but that's beside the point. I mean, the Bucks made the decision, and that's the direction they wanted to go. I think it's crazy, but we'll see.
I agree to a certain extent. I think it's a homecoming for Doc Rivers because he did play for Marquette. He does have a banner up in the rafters there. Now, is that the only reason why you should bring a guy back? No. But he has experience, and maybe that's what this team needed. Now, let's face it. This team traded away their defensive player of the year, so our defense has really gone down. So maybe Doc can re-insurge that defense. That's, a big part of what we need. My question is in the NBA, is a head coach as influential and has as much, how should I say that? Influence as like an NFL coach?
No,
because we
different
have
thing.
Brand new,
Whole different thing.
Championships. It's so different in the NBA than what it is in the NFL. And I'm just saying, the NBA, you've seen an influx of coaches from college to pro and be just as successful. And then you've seen the ones that go college to pro and flop. There's no in between with them. It's all over the place. We've seen them be successful. Look at Eric Spoelstra. Pat Riley looks like a genius keeping him there. They make the playoffs every year. They make a deep run. They get close to the conference finals every year. So kudos to him. He found his guy, and he didn't need LeBum to stay there the entire time to do it.
The difference, I think, with the NBA and the NFL, Jeremy, is the fact that the NFL, you have some prima donnas, but you don't have as many as you do in the NBA. And the NBA, no matter who the coach is, you're going to have a bunch of prima donnas there that are just, and that's one of the reasons I stopped following and even talking about it.
Well,
I think
yeah.
the NFL is more of a team sport, though, too.
Teams,
Like
exactly.
the quarterback doesn't do it all by himself. Whereas, let's face it, a forward or a guard, he could dribble the ball all the way down and
Yeah.
take the shot and be done and then go back on defense. So you really could do more of it yourself. So I think it's more of an individualistic team
Yes.
or individual sport than NFL. So do I think they need the same coaching? Probably not. And they're not drawing up, I don't think, the same schemes like an NFL coach with the offense would do, or the same with the defense. So does the coach matter as much? So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Doc and how far they get, because let's face it, they're still a team that it should be rooted to go far in the playoffs. Now we'll see if that happens.
I want to say congratulations, Candy. Last week, your Packers did the amazing thing.
They didn't
They
lose.
fired Joe Barry. And now they've hired former Boston College head coach Jeff Hanley. And when you look at the Boston College defense in their division, which isn't really a super Power 5 school, it makes you wonder if he's going to be the guy or not, too, because that was one of the bottom dwellers in defense in their conference. So I hope he's good for you. I really do. He can't be worse than Joe Barry. That's all I got to say.
Well, he was the defensive coordinator here at Pitt for a little bit, and he was okay when he was here.
Okay,
and
good.
but then now and he got out of Boston College because he said he's tired of the NIL and the transfer portal. It burned him out, and it's burning out all these coaches anyway.
Right.
Yeah,
Smaller
good
schools
point.
don't have like the boosters that have the big money to support the high NIL to get the upper end players.
Yeah.
That some of the bigger schools can, because they have better boosters.
Yeah.
And say what you want, it's just a way for the boosters to be able to pay these kids to play football for colleges. Is exactly what the NIL is.
Well, Penn State has $70 million every year in their budgeted for NIL. Pitt, on the other hand, has a committee out here called Assurance 412. And that group goes out and they solicit money for the NIL. They go to they're at the games with a little cup out there saying donate or whatever. I don't know what they do there at the games. I haven't been to one in a while. But what I'm saying is I'm told they're there, they have a little desk set up and they're saying, please give us donations to help with the NIL. Okay, they're doing that. They're going out getting boosters, whatever they're doing. And that's how Pitt's doing it. But Penn State has it in their budget, $70 million.
Right. And that's the same with a lot of the big Power 5 schools.
Yes.
That have that kind of money in their boosters club, in the alumni fund, and stuff like that. That's what I'm getting at. All these smaller schools, you're either going to see them rise to the top and get better boosters and better sponsors to be able to compete, or you may see them start to dwindle and do away with some of the major sports because they won't have the money to compete.
To compete, right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true. Very true.
So I will say that on Sunday, and I know Sunday was a football game day, but before the football games, I had the honor and privilege of going to the FAU men's basketball game. And I got to take pictures, which meant I actually got to sit on the court and to take pictures. Now, when I tell you this was one exciting game, I can't tell you enough. I don't think the score ever varied by more than 5 points towards the North Texas team. But FAU hit a winning shot with 0.5 seconds left on the clock to win that game. I think they were ahead by maybe three minutes of the whole game, but yet they found it in them to win. And like I said, it was a seesaw battle back and forth, getting close, either tie game or down by 2. But it was my first college basketball game in a while. And the excitement And I'll tell you, FAU plays in what is arguably probably one of the smallest stadiums out of all of college basketball. But I'll tell you, the excitement level in there and the fans, that's what makes the difference. You don't have to have a big stadium. In fact, I was talking with one of the announcers for the North Texas game beforehand, and he was telling us how some of the schools are actually starting to downsize some of their gyms because they aren't drawing the big crowds. And so when they have a smaller stadium, the crowd is more involved and it gives them more of a home court advantage.
I mean, look at
Yes, it
UAB.
does.
UAB, the Blazers. That small little thing, you have seen Power 5 schools get intimidated and lose at UAB because the cheering section looks like it's right on top of the basketball hoop. You can literally make out faces through the clear glass. It's funny to see, but it actually is an intimidating factor. It no more intimidating than it is for the people using the thunder clappers at the pro games when the guys are trying to make shots. It does affect you for the away team. Any movement like that, it can track your eye away.
Well, we don't have any problem at all here in Detroit because the University of Detroit Mercy Titans are 0-23. Nobody's talking about it. There's plenty of
Wow.
seats available.
They play
Even-
Robert Morris here in
Even if
Pittsburgh.
they
They
would
play
block
Robert
off,
Morris.
even
Yeah.
if they would block off seats, Candy, here at University of Detroit Callahan Hall on the Dick Vitale court.
I have to
Jimmy.
say though, George, I do remember covering Jacksonville a number of years ago before they got better in the Trevor Lawrence and all of that. And their upper bowl, they would actually cover with a big tarp that had a big Jacksonville logo on it. So it didn't look like there were seats that weren't there, but they did that because they weren't selling the tickets. So I understand not having as many fans in the stands.
Yes.
Yeah, Pitt's talking about doing that for football here because they only draw 40,000, not even 40,000 fans to a game anymore. And the only time they sell out is if we're playing like Tennessee, Notre Dame, or somebody like that, or West Virginia or Penn State. We haven't sold a game out in the last couple of years, I don't think. I mean, we've had some good crowds. Acrisure Stadium seats about 70,000 people. So they're talking about putting tarps over the top, over the upper bowl and all that stuff because we don't really draw that well. And when I worked there in the past, they didn't draw that well. When we were in the Big East, we had to give out tickets to have people come from the upper bowl. They actually would give us free tickets to hand to people to come down from the upper bowl and sit in the lower bowl and fill it in for TV.
Well, the Detroit Shock of the Women's Basketball Association too did that, and they covered up the top part of the Palace of Auburn Hills, obviously the same stadium that the Detroit Pistons used. So the teams have done that before, where they've had large tarps. That does help a little bit. The Quick Lane Bowl, the College Football Bowl, on December 26th at Ford Field. They didn't even open up the third deck, the second deck, whatever you want to call it. That was all empty, but they didn't have the money to obviously put tarps over a huge deck like that. So I've seen those things happen before, Ralph, where they put those tarps up, and it's not bad. You know, it's one way to make it look a little bit cozier.
I agree. Any other topics anybody wants to bring to the table?
Well, I just wanted to share one thing, Candy. I didn't chime in when you guys were talking about coaches.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that with championship teams, you always have a leadership situation. I can't remember how many times they would say, Michael Jordan is running that team. Phil Jackson's running that team. Michael Jordan's running that team. Or Isaiah Thomas is running the Detroit Pistons. So all I was going to add to that discussion about coaches that, yes, the coach is important in the NBA, but so are the superstars that drive that winning team, that drive that championship team, as we all know, have a huge say in the lineup and the game plans and stuff like that behind the scenes, because people wouldn't be making those kind of comments if it wasn't true. Chuck Daly was a great coach. Don't get me wrong. I love them here in Detroit. But Isaiah, Lambert, and Mark Aguirre kind of were the three that kind of ran that Piston team. And Michael Jordan, and Scottie Pippen, those guys in Chicago. So, anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there. You don't have to respond, but I just wanted to also add that a lot of those coaching teams use senior leadership on the court. In other words, the superstar players too.
I agree. And let's face it, Milwaukee wants to keep Giannis happy. So I know that Giannis had talked with Doc Rivers before and everything like that. So they really want to keep him happy because they want to keep seeing good quality basketball. And he's made a good home in Milwaukee, and they embrace him. And he is so far has embraced Milwaukee too.
That's
So
good.
hopefully they can keep it up. Anything else, guys?
No, I'm good. I am.
Good. Well, that's gonna conclude this episode. I'm gonna take you around the horn so you guys can let everybody know how they can get a hold of you or find you on other shows besides this show. So let's start with Mr. Ralph.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Tumblr. And you can also find me on, I have my own YouTube channel, and I'm also on Twitter X, as well. And I have a radio show on Tuesday nights called Sports Corner Radio Show with me, Ralph Williams, and Smoking Jim Frazier, and from 4 to 6 p.m. on Beaver County Radio, and also on Wednesday nights. Now I have a new show on Blog Talk Radio, and I have 3 shows on Blog Talk Radio. And you can dial in at 563-999-3740, including tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. the External Bum Show with me, Scott Morganroth from the South Florida Tribune, and JT Toth from Draft 412.
Okay. Before I get to Smoking Jeremy B, I have to say I had the privilege on Monday night of coming on his show. And the reason why I want to say kudos to Smoking Jeremy B is because it was his 1000th episode. So kudos to you, Jeremy, and thank you for inviting us on your show. I had a privilege and had a great time.
Oh, it was my pleasure to have you. I mean, you guys are a big reason on why I'm here and why I have so many shows. I think I've done more shows than the entire cast of Big Bang Theory. But anyway, if you add in all the South Florida Tribunes and all the other guest appearances I've had over the past 2 years since I created my channel, and the ones that I did even before I created it, if you added up all my shows, I'm almost to 2,000 right now. And now I'm doing 8 shows a week during the season and 5 shows during a week during the off season, just on my channel alone. That's a lot of work. And people don't realize, because if you haven't produced a show and come up with your own topics and come up with the guests and the lineups for each show, you do not understand the amount of pre and post production work there is. And so my hat's off to everybody who's done their own podcast, done their own broadcast, done their own radio show. Because you know what? I know how much work it is, and I know what type of grind it is.
Thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate it.
Eddie Grimes from here in Grand Blanc mentions my mom's dog, but you're not as good looking as Penny. No one here is as good looking as that cute little puppy.
Takes me hours, Jeremy, to do my radio show notes. Hours.
But coming up with the topics, it's real easy. You get a headline. That's the easy part. The topics are the easiest thing to come up with. You just look at NFL News Today or Detroit Lions News Today, and boom, you take your top 3 headlines. As long as it's not the room. I like being a factual show, not the rumor-based show. So I try to stay with the one, who should we trade for, or who should we sign, and who should we do this, and who should we do that? No, I look at, what are the team's biggest needs in the next off season? And then I'll formulate my own hypothesis about by looking up who's available, doing the scouting reports and everything else. and coming up with a plan that I think behooves our team the best, money wise, cap wise, fits, culture, all big things in Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes' world. That being said, so kudos to Candy, Scott, and Ralph. I know you guys produce your own shows. I know you do your own content, your own intros, all that stuff. Kudos to my friends from the Lions Villain Squad who invited me to be a part of their network, because he does the intros for everybody's shows because he's got the copyright for the music and stuff like that. But my channel, I'll start there. I'm going to work in reverse order this time. Is Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions. You can check us out there on YouTube. I also air into Twitter, Facebook to the Motor City Kneecap Biters page, also into the Lions Villain Squad. You can also find me on Twitter at Smoking Jeremy B on X. And then you can find me as a guest sometimes on Chat Talk Sports with Mike. You can find me on Roar of the Lions UK sometimes. You could find me. You never know who's going to add me. I've been on different sports shows across Sideline Sports, across numerous other places that I shall not be named because, well, I don't talk with them anymore. I don't know why. They're lost. Then there is the South Florida Tribune. It's not only the YouTube channel, but it's also .com, where I'm a writer for the Motor City Tribune with the great authors such as George Eichhorn himself there, who has his own book, which I have over here on my coffee table somewhere. And then there's Scott Morganroth, and the logo's not there, so I can't really tell. Lessons from the Microphone? Is that what it's called? Yeah, there it is. That's the one I'm talking about. It's up there. Over there by Candy. Go to Amazon. Check it out.
Yes.
And on top of that, while you're watching us here on YouTube on the South Florida Tribune channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Get this out to all your sports fans, because you notice we touched a little bit on baseball. We touched on some basketball. We touched a lot on football because guess what? The season's still going. It has the fewest games, but the longest season. It's redonkulous because once the Super Bowl's done, a couple weeks later, we start talking about all the stuff with the scouting combine and everything else. And don't forget, the bowl game that I'm the happiest to see is the one that's played Saturday, the Senior Bowl, which is basically the all-star game for college.
Okay. George, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, you can find me, as Jeremy mentioned, at the South Florida Tribune under the banner Motor City Tribune. At the end of every column, I have a link if you care to purchase Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. It's a book I published several years ago, and Scott's in it, and Ernie Harwell, George Kell, Van Patrick, Ray Lane, all great announcers in Detroit history. Also, you can reach me at Yahoo at gicorn@yahoo.com or on LinkedIn. I am on with my name, George Eichhorn, on LinkedIn, and also on Twitter. I use a name that's not too familiar, but Sand G Sports, just like it sounds, and then the number 99. You can reach me on Twitter. And find me on the 108 Stitches show, find me on the Sports Exchange, find me on the Fire Up, find me on Pundits Punted. Wherever Scott and Candy need me, I'm there and happy to help out, and really appreciate the opportunity to be on your shows.
Well, thank you. And I have to add that George and Scott have been working together for over 40 years in media.
That's great.
So in some shape or form, whether it be on the radio or writers or on our YouTube station. And he writes for me 43. So we really appreciate, obviously. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate Jeremy. I appreciate Ralph. But George was actually in our wedding as well. So George is a good friend besides being a co.
Let's hear it for George there.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yes.
Yeah, thank you, Candy. Appreciate it.
But you're
Great
watching.
memories. Yeah.
It is. So, South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Like it, share us with everybody. Comment. Come watch our shows. Pretty much, you can find us Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights, Sunday mornings. We have Inside the Pigskin if you like football. We have 108 Stitches Baseball Talk if you like baseball. Sports Exchange if you like all of the sports, because you never know what sport we might be talking about. He talks about everything. He's even talked about cornhole on Sports Exchange. Yes, I said cornhole. All of our broadcasts are also on podcasting. So if you like to listen to podcasts, you can hear any of ours on there. Scott is now reintroducing his Motor City Mad Mouth show, which is a one-on-one interview show. And he interviewed Bo Crouch this week, which is one of the guys that does our YouTube channel on Inside the Pigskin. He's based out of Seattle, and he talks about his playing days and what he's doing now. So go check out that show. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You'll be able to see some of my pictures that I've taken. You'll be able to read what Jeremy's wrote about pretty much most of the time about the Lions. And then he's got a little link to his channel too, so you can always click and watch his stuff. George, like he said, he writes. He also has a link for his book. Go buy his book. Scott wrote a book. Scott's my husband. He's the one that's been in the media business for over 44 years. His book talks about all of it, not all, some of his experiences, because he's had so many that one book wasn't enough to hold it. But he even has pictures because he's interviewed the likes of Tommy Lasorda, Muhammad Ali. The book talks about that. The book has some pictures in there about some of those. Go check it. Check out the book. It's available on Amazon or on Kindle. Let's see what else. Oh, NGBN TV is the newest and latest. It is going to be a streaming TV station, and we are our Sports Exchange is going to be picked up on that on that streaming TV. It is going to be on Amazon. It's going to be on Roku TV. It's going to be on all Android devices. It's going to soon be on Apple. And we're going to be broadcasting live on that station. So you want to go out and check out that. That station is really designed to entertain, inform, educate, especially men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, because we're trying to reduce the suicide rate in that. And that is the highest rate of suicide in that age group in men. So we're trying to support them and give them an outlet. Yes, Mr. Jeremy.
And in that age group, it's highest among veterans.
Yes.
So please make sure you support your veterans. Suicide hotline can be found online. All you got to do is search it. If you need somebody to talk to, they're there. If you know me personally, reach out. I'll talk to you. I've faced my own demons with that. Many of us here have faced way more than most people realize, and we can handle it.
We can. In fact, if you go to South Florida Tribune, Scott just recently wrote an article about suicide and the NGBN TV, and it's a very touching story. So I encourage everybody to go to www.southfloridatribune.com and read it. Well, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. I want to thank Ralph. I want to thank George and Jeremy, and I want to thank all the people that were in the chat room. We appreciate it. Without you people in the chat room, we wouldn't keep doing this. We wouldn't have a reason to. So thank you for being out there, and thank you for commenting. And catch us. You're going to catch us Sunday morning. I don't know if we've set a time yet, but watch for it. We'll advertise it ahead of time. And then catch us next week. You can find us every Thursday night, normally around 9:30. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the Pro Bowl if you're going to watch.
Yeah.
Watch the Senior Bowl.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Good one.